August 31st,
August
1984.
31st. Okay, because that information I would be unclear about. August. Yeah, see, I already forgot.
August 31st, 1984.
August 31st.
Mm-hmm. Day before Mom's birthday.
August 31st, 1984.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll be glad to. I'll be glad to tell the story. Are we on?
We're on. Action.
Oh. Well, I just wanted to give my point of view of Dave's accident. August the 31st, 1984, Ron and I were moving out of our house in Ballard, and we were in the process of carrying the last things out of the house, and I got a call, and I can't remember who made that call. I don't remember who called, but they said that Dave had been in a serious accident. And I couldn't get any details. There wasn't really anything I could do about it right then anyway. So I went over to my mother-in-law's house and we set up for the night. And the next day, we were staying over at my mother-in-law's temporarily because every cent we had was in escrow because we just sold our house and we didn't have an alternative dwelling in mind. So the next day, I called Mel in California, and I said, Dave's been in an accident. I need to know what his injuries are. And he hemmed and hawed and didn't want to tell me, and that just increased my anxiety. And I said, look, Mel, I want to pray for him, basically. I need to know what his injuries are so I can be more effective. So I finally convinced him, and he listed off a frightening list of things. And so before I went outside to meditate for him, I got a call from Carol, our sister Carol, and she said, well, be prepared because Dave has already turned blue. His lungs are crushed. They can't get enough air in his body to keep him alive. So basically, without saying so in so many words, it was, well, the next call will be, he's dead. I wasn't prepared for that. I was not ready for that in no way, shape, or form. So I tried to get outside right away, but my mother-in-law, Rena, she wanted to console me. I didn't want to be consoled. I wanted to go outside where I could be in nature and away from everybody else because I didn't have my shrine set up. I was studying Buddhism at the time, so I had a little shrine, but of course everything was packed. So I went outside in the garden. And there was a hedge. I sat behind the hedge where it was private and there was grass. And that was about 11:30 in the morning. And without really knowing what I was doing, I did the chant, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is a way to focus your mind. And while your mind is focused, you can put your concentration on something else without the distractions. That's kind of the way I see it. And apparently the words themselves have mystical reverberations of some sort. So I started chanting, and I knew that he was dying because of lack of air. So I visualized air. I tasted air. I felt air coming into my lungs. I felt air in my throat. I heard air. I imagined air. And I imagined that air going up into the air and flowing around the earth to where Dave was and filling him with air. And sometime during the day, my daughter, who was at the time Connie Renee, now goes by Fox, she came out when evenings started to come down to put something around my shoulders. I wasn't aware of what it was. I knew she was there. She knelt down beside me for a while. But about 8:30 at night, big white light with the words in my head that said, "He will live until you get there." Well, since I've been praying all day long for an answer to my prayer, and even though I didn't expect that answer, I knew that I had to go. That was the answer. There was no if, ands, or buts, or maybes, or equivocation about it. It was, this is the answer to your prayer. If you want him to live, get there. So I never forget the so many words that were so clear and crystal, you know. So I got up and I headed toward the house, and Ron met me on the back, and he put his arms around me, and I said, I'm going to go pack. I want you to call Mel, find out where I need to be, where I need to fly to get there, and arrange me next flight out of here. And he said, we don't have any money. And I said, I know that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying get me on a plane to California, and I'm going to go pack. And so he put his arms around me even tighter, and he said, I just wish I could be with you. So that was the end of that. I went in and started packing, and pretty soon he came in and he said, I called Mel, and he said, don't send me. Told me not to let you come. And I said, will you tell Mel that I'm coming, and it would be a lot handier if I knew what airfield I was to fly to. And so that was the end of that. So Ron got the information, got all the flight details. In 2 hours, I was in flight, in the air. In 2 hours' time, I was in the air. I got there, and I don't remember too much details about any of it except walking into the room where you were, laid out on a stretcher with a sheet across your groin, and you looked like a fallen god. Been roofing. I think men who roof are the smartest men in the world, because without having to pay any extra money, they get the most beautiful bodies, better than working out in the gym, which are, I'm going to work my abs, and I'm going to work my trabs, and I'm going to work my tri nodules or whatever, and they look beefed up weirdly, you know. But a roofer works every part of their body in motion and everything. Ooh. So, Dave, you were so beautiful. It was just like finding some amazing carving by Michelangelo or something of the epitome of man. You were pretty white and totally unresponsive. And I put my hands around you, and I was creating an energy field for you, and Mel came and interrupted me about 6 times, so it finally disrupted it. But so that began the saga of your climb to health. But a couple of things about me being there. For one thing, to support Mom was pretty important, because as soon as Brina guilt-tripped me into coming home before you came to, well, Mom fell and broke her ribs. I really resented her for that. First thing she said to me when I got off the plane, sidebar, is, do you know what day it is? Yeah, it's the day that my brother could be dying, and my mom's alone,
that on her birthday?
I was there 2 weeks.
Or was Mom down there on her birthday?
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Mom. I don't know where she was. I'm just telling you from my point of view. When I got there, Mom was there.
She had. I don't think she was living in L.A. Where was she living?
Let's see. She was still in Tacoma, I think.
Okay, so she jumped right on a plane and came down.
Yeah, they told her you had a fatal accident. And probably because they thought you were dying. So anyway, I rushed out to be with Mom and you, and what they have this rule as sign, you know, that you can only go in during visiting hours and you have this and that. We just went in and stayed. And I guess it didn't take them very long to realize that we were benefit and we weren't getting in the way. One of the first things that happened, you were still in the trauma center, and we came in, and apparently this had happened several times already. You were in a coma and sedated to a degree that should have brought down an elephant, but every so often you would sit up in bed and start dragging at your trachea tubes and you know, getting all wild and everything. And so I was there when this episode happened, and 3 different medical experts rush over and try to do something, and they're saying, David. And right then I've got, okay, you're barking way up the wrong tree. So I go over to the nurse in charge, and I said, you need to communicate to these people that his name is Dave, and if he's conscious at all and hears David, that will reaffirm that he's not there. So please do that. Okay, that happened 2 more times. And both times they ran up, David. And I got really on her case. And I said, what am I going to have to do to impress upon you that this is doing him no good? I know they're trying to reach him, and they won't do it by calling him David. If anything, he'll have an adverse reaction. Stop letting them do that. So she got a marker, and she wrote on your pillow, on both sides of your pillow, patient's name is Dave. And so they stopped doing that. That alone could have been critical. If you come to enough to notice what they were doing, which what they were trying to do is get your attention, you would have said, fuck you clowns, I'm out of here. But that didn't happen. Well, because I got really in her face the 3rd time it happened. I said, you know, hello. But anyway, they moved you to another room. By this time, we were pretty much by your side all the time, right from the beginning, because, like I said, it seemed to work out better if we were there. So one time I'm by your bed, and they make you have gloves. We had to wear rubber gloves and a mask at first, you know, make sure we're not going to poison you or something.
They don't. That environment is so dangerous and toxic. With, you know, in the trauma center is where people go to either live or die. You know, that's not an emergency room. That's like, and the interesting thing about the story is that it became a thing in that part of Los Angeles. They started developing these trauma centers. And a trauma center has a high-level surgeon basically standing there. He does a shift, and he's replaced by another, and they are ready to perform quite exotic surgeries on the minute's call. They're ready to go. They have a nursing staff. So when you go into the trauma center at a decent hospital, well, these had only been established for about 6 months as a new kind of thing, and they spread out through that portion of Los Angeles, and they lasted about 6 months, and then they shut down. So they were even open, these trauma centers that would have been that available to me, to the accident site. I understand I was a minute one way or the other could have been.
I think I heard that you
difference.
had 4-minute leeway.
And they were able to go from, witnesses on the scene to an emergency response unit to a trauma center in probably under 5 minutes. That whole thing must have, but
Okay.
LA is kind of like that. And that is what was, and I was probably operated on before. I know that I had tubes in my lungs.
When I
and
walked in for
in
the
my
first
throat
time
and
after they had you set up, they had what I thought was like some kind of a fish tank or something at the bottom of your bed. It was about this wide, about this long, about like this, and it was just bubbles. Just bubbles.
like a science fiction
And I
movie.
said, well, what is that? And he said, well, that's the air that's escaping from your lungs. We have to put so much pressure on to get any air through the bruising, but if we do any more, his lungs will explode. But this is the air that he should be getting in his body, but is not. Well, anyway, I want to tell you one little thing. I don't think I've ever told you this because it's kind of a gruesome thing in a way, because I have an ick factor that's overdeveloped. I know that, but I'm standing by your bed, and you had a lot of problem with infection and different things going on. But anyway, thank you. I had rubber gloves on, and you started coughing, and you would have died because you coughed up a baseball-sized glob of gooey, nasty, yellowish, grayish phlegm, and I caught it and got it out of your mouth. And if you had been alone, you wouldn't have survived that, I know. So just little things like that, that with all the expertise, and you had the top of the line experts, you still would have died. If it wasn't just for a couple of little things that I was there, and that was my reward for spending the day praying for you. Okay, go and get up his spit and make sure that they're not calling him by the wrong name, and just be there on the sidelines. Anyway, that's my side of the story. Pretty much. Oh, I have to tell you one other little sideline thing, which is kind of funny. His boss rented a room in a hotel for Mom and me.
Everybody came down, but nobody had a place to stay.
Well, yeah, Mom and I, we didn't have a place to stay. So we had this hotel room, and one night Mel stayed in the hotel with us. It was 2 double beds. And we were all pretty much exhausted. Mel and Mom went to sleep right away, and they both started snoring like a hurricane. But if they would have snored on some kind of a pattern or some sort of a rhythm, I could have dealt with it. But no, it was snore, snort, snore, snort, 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 snort. And they didn't do it in time or in rhythm or anything, and it was so freaking loud, there was nothing you could do. So finally, I took all the shoes and all the luggage and everything out from under the closet where there was the air conditioner on, and it was loud enough and far enough away that with a pillow over my head, I could finally go to sleep on the floor. But yeah, that was a difficulty. But yeah, that was the first time my nails all grew out, though, pretty.
What was your connection to? Robert Hart. He is the one that set up the hotel, paid for it, and he was the owner of the company that I was the assistant superintendent of, and I think at that point, keeping the company working. And he had to fight to say that this motorcycle accident was a workers' comp injury. I was on the job doing my work when this freakish motorcycle accident happened, and nobody was dressed in uniforms. The roofers don't. And we're on a 750 Honda cruising through town, and he's there on the front line saying, he was at work.
He was working for me.
There's no, yeah.
He was on the clock.
He was really, to me, a hero in this story. Unfortunately, after I didn't return to Hart Roofing, I was still at Mom's. The company just quit, went out. I don't know. It didn't last very long. But when I was still at Mom's recovering, he came by and borrowed $500 from me. It seemed to me he was taking off with some girl, going somewhere with some kind of plan, and, he needed some cash. And, I knew, I felt really sad in a way, and I knew that I'd never see this money again,
Or him.
Probably because of somebody's trying to call. That's, I'm just going to ignore it. Anyway,
Did you turn this off?
No, I decided to go ahead and just keep taping. Until I'm sure I got all of your stories. It seems like there's more. I know